Welcome, my amazing friends. A cold wind moves through the narrow streets of South London. The gas lamps burn softly in the night. The stones are wet under small shoes. Somewhere nearby, a theater door opens. Warm yellow light falls into the street. You hear music. You hear laughter. You hear the sound of people forgetting their troubles. For a little while. Outside, a small boy watches the world with hungry eyes. His coat is thin. His face is pale. He knows the smell of cheap rooms, old bread, and winter air. He knows what it means to wait for food. He knows what it means to be afraid of tomorrow. But he also knows something else. He knows that a human face can tell a story without a single word. That boy is Charles Spencer Chaplin. Here is the question at the heart of his life. How does a child with almost nothing give the whole world something to laugh about? And why, even after he died, could the world still not let him go? In this story, you will discover how a child of poverty became the face of silent cinema. You will feel the emotional truth behind his comedy, the lonely hunger that lived behind the smile. And you will understand a deeper lesson. Sometimes the thing that makes us different becomes the very language we give to the world. So make yourself comfortable and let the story begin. It was a cold spring in London in 1889. Charlie Chaplin was born on the 16th of April. His parents, Hannah Chaplin and Charles Chaplin Sr., both worked in music halls. A music hall was a popular theater where people sang, danced, joked, and performed short acts for an audience. It was bright on stage, but life behind the curtain was often very hard. His father had a strong singing voice. His mother was gentle, talented, and full of feeling. She performed under the stage name Lily Harley. To young Charlie, she was more than a mother. She was his first teacher. She showed him how to move. She showed him how to listen. She showed him how a face could become sad, then funny, then brave, all in a few seconds. But Charlie's home was not safe for long. His father drank heavily and was often absent. The family broke apart. Money became rare. Food became uncertain. Charlie and his older half-brother Sidney watched their mother fight to keep them alive. There were days when hunger was not just a feeling. It was the center of the room. It sat at the table with them. It followed them to bed. It woke with them in the morning. And yet, Hannah tried to bring beauty into that hard life. She sang to her children. She acted out little scenes. She made the poor room feel, for a moment, like a stage. Charlie watched every movement. He remembered everything. But the story did not end there. One night, when Charlie was still very young, his mother was performing before an audience. Her voice failed. The crowd became angry. They wanted entertainment, not weakness, they shouted. They laughed in a cruel way. Then the little boy stepped forward. Charlie went onto the stage. He sang. He copied voices. He moved in a funny way. the audience changed. First they watched, then they smiled, then they laughed. Coins were thrown onto the stage. The little boy picked them up and the laughter grew. It was his first taste of power. Not the power to command, not the power to hurt, the power to change a room. But the story did not become easy after that. Hannah's health became worse. Her voice, her work, and her mind all suffered. At times, she could not care for her children. Charlie and Sydney were sent to the workhouse. A workhouse was a place where very poor people received food and shelter. But the conditions were often harsh and shameful. For a child, it felt like being thrown away by the world. When his mother's mental health broke down completely, she was sent to an asylum. An asylum was a hospital for people with serious mental illness. For Charlie, it meant losing the one person who had given his world warmth. Many people would have become hard after such a childhood. Charlie became sharp but not empty. He learned to observe. He watched the way rich men walked. He watched the way poor men waited. He watched proud people pretend not to be afraid. He watched hungry people make jokes because crying was too heavy. This became his secret school. Now here is where the story becomes interesting. Charlie did not receive a long formal education. But London taught him. The streets taught him. The theater taught him. Pain taught him. He worked small jobs. He performed when he could. He learned timing. Timing means knowing the exact moment to move, pause, fall, or look. In comedy, 1 second can change everything. Too early, and the joke dies. Too late, and the feeling disappears. Charlie understood this, like music. As a boy, he joined a group called the 8 Lancashire Lads, a clog dancing troupe. Clog dancing is a dance done in hard shoes that strike the floor with rhythm. It was not fame, it was not comfort, but it was stage work. It gave him discipline. It taught him how to repeat a movement until it looked natural. At about 14, Charlie appeared in a stage version of Sherlock Holmes. He played Billy, the page boy. A page boy was a young servant or helper in a house or hotel. The role was small, but it put him in real theaters. It gave him confidence. It showed directors that this poor boy from London had something rare. He had presence. Presence is difficult to explain. It means people notice you even before you speak. Charlie had that. His eyes looked sad and alive at the same time. His face could ask for love and make fun of the world in one single look. If you enjoy calm stories like this, consider subscribing to Timeless Stories. New stories arrive with care, and each one is made to help you learn English through lives that still speak to us. And this is the moment everything changed. In 1908, Chaplin joined Fred Karno's comedy company. Karno's group was famous for physical comedy. Physical comedy uses the body more than words. A person falls, jumps, hides, runs, dances, or struggles with objects. and the audience understands the joke through action. This was perfect for Charlie. He watched the older performers. He learned how to fall safely. He learned how to turn fear into laughter. He learned that the audience did not only want jokes. They wanted recognition. They wanted to see their own small troubles on stage and laugh at them. The Karno Company traveled to America. Charlie crossed the Atlantic Ocean by ship. He was young, ambitious, and still carrying London inside him. America felt large, loud, fast, full of movement. The cities seemed to run toward the future. In 1913, Keystone Studios offered Chaplin film work. Keystone was known for quick, wild comedies. Silent films were still young. The camera did not record spoken dialogue. Actors had to make the story clear with their bodies, their faces, and short written cards on the screen. Charlie entered this new world at the right moment. So, what happened next? In early 1914, Charlie began appearing in short films. Then he created the character that changed his life. The costume came together almost like a dream. A small bowler hat, a tight coat, large trousers, huge shoes, a cane, a tiny mustache. The pieces did not match. That was the magic. He looked poor and proud, weak and brave, silly and elegant, lost and strangely free. This character became known as the Tramp. The Tramp was not only a funny man, he was a human question. How can someone with almost nothing still walk like a gentleman? How can a hungry man still offer kindness? How can a poor wanderer still protect his dignity? Dignity means the quiet worth every person carries, even when life treats them badly. Audiences loved him, not only in America, across the world. People did not need English to understand him. They did not need to know London. They knew hunger, they knew pride, they knew embarrassment, they knew hope. In 1918, Chaplin built his own studio in Hollywood. This was a bold choice. At that time, studios often controlled artists completely. But Chaplin wanted freedom. He had once been a child with no control over where he slept or what he ate. Now, in art, he wanted to control every movement. In 1921, he released The Kid. It told the story of the tramp and an abandoned child. The film was funny, but it also hurt. It showed poverty, love, separation, and the fear of losing someone. Audiences laughed, then cried. Chaplin had found a way to mix comedy and sorrow so closely that they became one feeling. Then came more great works. The Gold Rush in 1925 showed the tramp in the cold world of gold seekers. There is hunger in that film. There is loneliness. There is a famous scene where he eats a shoe as if it is a fine meal. It is funny because it is strange. It is sad because hunger is real. Chaplin could make pain safe enough to look at. But the world changed in the late 1920s. Sound came to cinema. Suddenly, actors could speak on screen. Silent films began to disappear. Many people told Chaplin to change. They said the future belonged to talking pictures. But Chaplin hesitated. The tramp belonged to silence. His voice was not one language. His voice was every language. In 1931, he released City Lights. It was mostly silent, even though sound films had already become popular. It tells the story of the tramp and a blind flower girl. He loves her quietly. He helps her without asking for praise. In the final scene, she realizes who he truly is. That final look says more than many speeches. It says, "I am poor, but I loved you." It says, "Now you see me." Chaplin proved that silence was not empty. Silence could hold the whole heart, but the story did not end there. In 1936, Chaplin released Modern Times. By then, the world was full of machines, factories, and economic fear. Many workers felt lost inside the new industrial age. Industrial means connected with factories and large machines. Chaplin turned that fear into comedy. In the film, the tramp struggles with factory work. Machines move too fast. His body cannot keep up. He becomes part of the machine, almost swallowed by it. The scenes are funny, but they also ask a serious question. What happens to ordinary people when the world only cares about speed? In Europe, Adolf Hitler rose to power in Germany. His rule brought hatred, violence, and war. Chaplin noticed something strange and deeply disturbing. Hitler's small mustache looked similar to the tramp's mustache. One used the image to make people laugh. The other used power to make people afraid. Chaplin decided to answer. In 1940, he released The Great Dictator. It was his first true talking film. He played two roles, a cruel dictator and a gentle Jewish barber. The film made fun of tyranny. Tyranny means cruel rule by one powerful leader. At the end of the film, he gave a speech asking for kindness, reason, and human brotherhood. For years he had trusted silence. Now, when silence was no longer enough, he used words. Chaplin did not speak because sound was fashionable. He spoke because history demanded it. And this is the moment everything changed. Again, fame and courage do not protect a person from trouble. In America, Chaplin faced political suspicion. Some people accused him of being too close to left-wing ideas. Others disliked his independence and his refusal to become an American citizen, even after many years. In 1952, Chaplin left America by ship to attend the London premiere of his film Limelight. While he was away, the United States government made it very difficult for him to return. He chose not to go back. He settled in Switzerland with his wife Una and their family. This was a kind of exile. Exile means being forced or strongly pushed to live away from a place that once mattered deeply. The boy who crossed the ocean to find his future had now crossed the ocean again. Older and wounded, America had given him fame. Hollywood had given him a screen. But now the door had closed. Chaplin lived near Lake Geneva in Switzerland. The air was clean, The mountains were near, he wrote. He composed music. He spent time with his children. He looked back at the long road behind him. But the world did not forget him. In 1972, after about 20 years away, Chaplin returned to the United States to receive an honorary Academy Award. Honorary means given as a special sign of respect, not for one single new film. When he walked onto the stage, the audience stood and applauded for a very long time. That applause was more than praise. It was a welcome home, even if home had become complicated. In 1975, Queen Elizabeth II knighted him. He became Sir Charles Chaplin. The poor child from London had received one of Britain's great honors. On the 25th of December, 1977, Charlie Chaplin died in his sleep in Switzerland. He was 88 years old. It was Christmas Day. Around the world, people remembered the little man on the screen. They remembered the walk. They remembered the smile. They remembered the way he could make sadness feel less lonely. And now we return to the promise from the beginning. In March of 1978, a few months after he died, two men stole his coffin from the cemetery in Switzerland. They demanded money from his family. This money is called a ransom. A ransom is money demanded in exchange for returning someone or something. It sounds almost impossible. The man who had spent his life turning dark things into comedy had now become part of a dark and strange crime. But Hannah Chaplin did not give in. The police investigated. The men were caught. Chaplin's body was found and returned. After that, his coffin was buried again, this time under concrete, so no one could steal it again. All his life, people wanted a piece of Chaplin. Studios wanted his talent. Crowds wanted his laughter. Newspapers wanted his private life. Governments wanted to judge his beliefs. And even after death, thieves tried to take his body. But they could not take the real Chaplin. Me. They could not take the child who watched his mother sing. They could not take the hungry boy who learned to observe the world. They could not take the tramp walking down the road, small but unbroken. They could not take the films, the laughter, or the quiet kindness hidden inside the jokes. So what can we learn from Charlie Chaplin? Maybe we learn that silence can speak. Maybe we learn that laughter is not always light. Sometimes laughter is a small lamp carried through a dark street. Maybe we learn that our wounds do not have to make us cruel. They can make us more careful with the hearts of other people. For you, learning English, Chaplin's life gives a beautiful lesson. He reached the whole world without many words. He did it through attention. He watched closely. He repeated patiently. He trusted small movements. Learning a language is exactly like that. You do not need to master everything in one day. You listen. You repeat. You notice one phrase, one sound, one feeling. Slowly, your silence becomes confidence. And perhaps, like Chaplin's little tramp, you simply keep walking. Tell me in the comments, which part of Charlie Chaplin's life stayed with you the most? Was it the hungry little boy watching the London stage? Or was it the old artist, white-haired and quiet, receiving that long, emotional applause? If these stories help your English, subscribe to Timeless Stories and join us every week. Thank you for listening, my amazing friends. I will see you in the next story.